Hello everyone and welcome to the June online chapter meeting of the Building Designers Association of Australia and the first day of winter. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jennifer Binns and I'm a building designer based in Tasmania. I host the online chapter meetings and Sarah Jane manages the technology in the background. Post us a message in the chat box and let us know where you're logging in from, and thank you for joining us. We have two great presentations today, but before we get started, a reminder that we have less than 2 weeks to go for submissions for the National Design Awards. If you haven't started yours, it's not too late. Step one is to create an account on AwardForce and identify which awards you want to enter. And from there, it's just about collating your images and information and submitting your entry. We're really looking forward to seeing some great designs come through. Tomorrow, we also have Alex Wrench presenting a CPD session on optimising ratings for high-star rating houses. This presentation follows on from the Mullum Creek Eco Housing webinar that was presented by Paul Haar on the 20th of April. Alex will explore in depth the optimising of ratings for high-star rating houses, but the webinar will also be generally applicable for 6-star rated houses. The event is free for all BDAA and ABSA members, and we also welcome non-members to this event. Sarah Jane will post a link in the chat box now for you if you want to register. The event is worth 1 formal CPD point or 1 category 1 CPD point, depending on whether you're a thermal performance assessor or a designer. The Mullum Creek Eco Housing webinar is also available to view in the members section of the website for those who missed it. So just a quick run through of the Zoom tools. You're welcome to ask questions throughout the meeting using the Q&A box, and our presenters will answer your questions either throughout the presentation or at the end. The Q&A feature also allows you to upvote topics. If you'd like to ask a question via audio, there's a raise your hand tool, and we just ask that you check there's no background noise that will interfere with the audio when we unmute you to ask your question. The chat box is there as a continuous message thread for comments, and Sarah Jane will use the chat box to post links. So comments in the chat box and questions in the Q&A box. It's great to see everyone posting in the chat box. Hello and welcome. First up today, we are very pleased to welcome Matthew Press, who's the Director of the Office of the Building Commissioner at the New South Wales Department of Customer Service. We'll be presenting and highlighting the changes within the industry that are currently occurring and to identify the improvements in not only the quality of building structures, but also in design documentation. Ultimately, he will provide an understanding of the direction of the construction industry and how this may affect the businesses of our diverse membership. So welcome, Matthew. Have we got you online?
Hi, Jennifer.
Great. I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay. Just bear with me as I try and do screen share and make it all work.
Sure.
Is that coming through?
It is. It's still coming through with the preview of the next slide.
Okay. How's that?
Still the same. That's it.
Perfect. Thanks,
Lovely.
Jennifer.
No
We're
worries.
away. So thanks, Jennifer, and particularly thanks to Chris, your leader here. The Building Designers Association, through Chris, is an association that's really been at the forefront of these reforms through the roundtables and the consultation that's occurred over the last 2 to 3 years. And I think you're a cohort of members that really gets it, that really gets the why we're doing all this change. And primarily the why, it's about customers, it's about homeowners, it's about the people that we ultimately do our design work for, the people who are going to live in that house. Because we're more than producing just a house, we're producing a home. So we've got to make sure what we build actually performs as expected, that people can rely on the safety and the amenity of that dwelling. And construction is complex. You know, it's ultimately quite a handmade product. There's many different people through the supply chain, suppliers, manufacturers, certifiers, builders, engineers, developers. And all of those people are going to be pushing in the same direction if we're going to end up with a home that performs or is fit to purpose. From the customer perspective, it doesn't really matter if any one of that supply chain let the side down. It's not really their responsibility to sort that out. It's the project's responsibility to sort it out. So here we have some examples from the OC audit program where sadly the construction team, players or individuals have let the side down. So we have a lift well on the left here where the lift device does not actually fit in the well. And so they've had to scrape back the concrete, exposing the reo bars. That's going to cause a significant problem because that to get the sufficient coverage and corrosion protection on those reo bars, they're going to have to find very expensive materials because they just don't have the thickness. That shouldn't be something that customers have got to worry about. That's for the project team. In the middle here, we have saw cuts to the bottom slab because the design of the basement and the plumbing and drainage systems came after the fact, came after that slab was poured. And then on the right, we have leaks from the podium slab. Look, there's something we should be really avoiding in the 21st century with all that we have at our disposal in modern construction. But beyond that, we have these knuckleheads here that have put the drip tray right over the sprinkler system. These are things that customers just should not be receiving, and it must change. And I'm pleased to report that change is arising. We've also got to get change, not just within the industry, but in the regulator itself. For too long, the regulator has been at the back of the bus. It gets onto projects, gets into disputes well after construction is finished in the statutory warranty period, sometimes 2 to 3 to 6 years after the fact. It's a messy situation then. We've got a he said, she said, lots of challenges to specifically determine liability. And so we've got to change that. We're getting the regulator out looking at projects while they're under construction. We've also got to encourage more people to actually trust in the capabilities of the regulator and make a complaint. We had some survey work that's recently completed, which showed that only around 20% of buildings with a serious defect, that's a defect in the common property, a fire system, a waterproofing system on the structure, only 20% of those buildings lodged a complaint with the regulator, lodged a complaint with fair trading. Instead, they went straight to courts and tribunal primarily. So we're going to change that dynamic, and we're going to aim as part of this program to at least double the number of complaints to go to fair trading and show that it can be a proactive regulator that can be driving this change, can be driving the industry up the front. And so we've got a collective mission, a mission that we're all working together, the regulated industry, and that's to make New South Wales the home of trustworthy buildings. Sounds like a really simple statement, but it's so powerful. Just to have buildings that don't hurt people physically, emotionally, economically, or the environment. And you just think about the buildings of Mascot Towers or Opal Towers, Mascot Towers in particular, the financial pain that has caused those homeowners, the emotional hardship, marriages, relationships, families have been pulled apart, physical, the towers being inferno, being golden candle infernos. We don't want that. We want New South Wales to be the home of a state where people really appreciate that the built construction is going to be what it says on the tin. And that improved confidence benefits everyone. More confidence in the public sector, in the public consumer markets means more customers. That means financiers can be more comfortable and offer better terms on construction loans. It means that insurers can start to take a lighter view on the price of professional indemnity insurance. And it can help get construction up and running again. We're currently in a dip thanks to COVID, but also because people just don't have confidence in what's coming to the market. We've really got to lift that, and everyone benefits from the lift. We've also got to think about encouraging the next generation as well. I don't know if you realise, but about 100,000 of our industry is going to retire or have moved on by 2030, the next 10 years. So the people that are going to have to replace that, they're currently in primary school and high school. They're already going through the education system. We've got a challenge to make sure that they see construction and all the many roles in construction as a really attractive and productive industry. It's a place that they're going to want to join. And so regularly we highlight the state of bathrooms in construction as a bit of an icon about what's got to change. It's just ridiculous, if not shameful, that we still can't produce bathrooms that are flushed and actually operate. We've also got to encourage our industry to think about doing things better, not just the minimum standard. So here's a basic example for you. It's two fire hydrants. Now, both of these hydrants are in the same lift well, in fact, 5 meters apart. On the right, we have a hydrant where the clearance between the bracket and the valve is the minimum 100 mils or so. Yet on the other end of the lift well, we have the clearance 3 times as much. Now, with proper planning, pre-planning, and thoughtful design, we can get to a much better result. We don't always have to be just working to what the code says or the bare minimum. We can do better. We should encourage ourselves to do better and take pride in our work. We should also be mindful accountability is increasing through technology. So in this state, we already have a very advanced digital twin of buildings. We can create 3D and 4D models of the built environment across New South Wales. Coming through the DPB reforms, which I'll talk to you later about, is digital twins for people. So we'll effectively have your thumbprint as a builder or as a designer or an engineer on your work, and have it lodged on an online portal, the e-planning system. And so the quality of that work will be tied to you forevermore. We also have smarts coming through to capture the DNA of buildings themselves. And so by the end of the year, New South Wales will have a system in place that's able to capture data on the products, materials, and certificates that go into building construction. So before long, we'll have a 360 view of buildings, people, and products, and all be held accountable for the quality of their work. But in going to a very digital world, we also need to be mindful of where our industry sits. And another bit of research that we concluded was one run by Western Sydney University. And this organisation was a big supporter. So we surveyed all of the builders and designers that are working on Class 2 construction. And we asked them about what systems, what products they use currently to produce drawings and designs. And the overwhelming response was that close to 3/4 of our industry are using 2D CAD systems. They're submitting drawings by converting a CAD drawing to a PDF. Sophisticated systems like BIM and even 3D are still a reasonably fair way off. And we've also got to be conscious that the structure of industry, it's not the Mirvacs and the multiplexes. It's small to medium business. 80% of builders and designers are less than 20 employees. They're small businesses and micro businesses. So in designing the legislative reforms that commence on the 1st of July, we've been very conscious of what the industry looks like, what's its shape, what's its structure, and what's its capabilities. And we're exceptionally conscious of the fact that we need to support the industry through ongoing professional education. Conferences and seminars like this are fantastic, but there's more we can do to lift standards. So now we have quality construction cards being issued on site. When we notice breaches or poor performance, the response, instead of a penalty notice, is to send people off to short courses on training to respond to the issue that we're found wanting. So a common issue we see is people just aren't aware of Australian standards. They're not aware that there's a standard which tells them how to do their work effectively, be that the right tile to use or anything else. We're also have built a platform to publish all of the courses that we'll produce and that industry partners will produce. There's currently 7 courses on there, and I encourage you to take a look. We're also putting out case studies, simple 1-pagers that are perfect for toolbox talks and practice notes so people can understand what we've seen out in the field, what was wrong about what was seen out in the field, and what's the correct way. Simple, clear information to get cut through to get change. So what could be your role in reforming the industry? Well, you could bring a bag of marbles to the bathroom. Now that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but let me explain why. We want to encourage every practitioner to really take a strong interest in the quality of construction work, because it's great to have a quality design, a detailed design, but it means nothing if it doesn't result, if it doesn't land in the built form. $1 spent during construction multiplies to 10 in the remediation sense. So the more we get proactive and invested in turning the designed form into the built form, the better for everyone. The better for the builder, the better for the developer, and that's a real service being provided by the contractor. The more care and attention we place in bathrooms, for example, and ensuring ensuring the actual water does run off to the drain, that helps the developer and the project avoid being on the next RAB order, the next prohibition order published by the Building Commissioner's Office. The greater care and attention to detail starts de-risking projects, reduces the likelihood of a professional indemnity or another claim. Insurers and financiers start to take notice. Financiers in particular are really starting to pay much closer attention to the type of people that are working on projects. For example, they are now specifically looking through the certified discipline record, the public register that's published, and avoiding those certifiers with a poor disciplinary history. And lastly, the better construction outcomes, people start to vote with their feet. That attracts customers, it attracts buyers. So don't be afraid to take an interest in how your design work flows through the built form, and think about bring a bag of marbles. Now, all of what we've seen in the OC audits, we've audited around 50 projects across New South Wales now. It's really pointing to why we need these reforms. There's poor attention to detail. People have not gone to the trouble of reviewing compliance certificates, not gone to the trouble of seeing whether there is a compliance certificate and when was it last issued. On one project, the compliance certificate was issued by the CSRO. The builder thought that was fantastic. When they took another look, it was last issued by the CSRO in 1980. Far less good. Simple things, checks and balances. A lack of responsibility for the whole structure. Lots of designers, lots of consultants all busily doing work on the project, but no one taking responsibility for making the system work as a whole. So there's a lack of coordination between all of those design professionals. And then lastly, design shortcuts. So retrofitting after the fact, using performance solutions as the get out clause to manage non-compliance and defects. So that all changes. We've got 1st of July, 30 days to go before the Design and Building Practitioner Act starts. And so what it's about making sure projects get set before they go. It's about design, then construction. Here's an example which went before it got set. The downpipes are complete afterthought, and not just an ugly result, ultimately a non-compliant one. And that's the type of projects that we're spending 10 times as much now after the fact to get that resolved. So the DPB seeks to change that by forcing coordinated, thoughtful, quality design construction before people press the green button and race into the built form. It puts a new flow and process into construction. It still allows for variations, it still allows for partial designs before work is done. But it basically says that checks and balances have to go through the system. Designs have to be prepared and declared by a designer, lodged on the portal, then work can commence. And that cycle essentially repeats throughout the construction process. It also introduces registration schemes. We have registration schemes for engineers engineers that are doing Class 2 building work, and registration schemes for builders and designers involved in Class 2 work as well. There's also a set of additional obligations on builders and designers in particular. Like I've mentioned, they'll have to have a complete set of designs. The Issue for Construction set, or IFC set, is now a concept required by regulation. There'll have to be a final set of as-built designs or as-built drawings signed off by the builder bookending the process saying, I have constructed in accordance with what I've been provided with. And CPD, making sure that people continually invest in reform and innovation so that they can stay up to pace with what's going on in the sector. So the type of work affected, it's Class 2 buildings and other buildings which are mixed use, which have a Class 2 component. So that includes towers with offices in the basement. It also includes buildings like some forms of granny thatch where there's vertical separation. So dwellings with granny thatch attached either vertically, above or below a primary dwelling. It includes townhouses where there's attached dwellings in a row and a common space below. So anything under which is defined as a Class 2 building under the Building Code of Australia is captured by these reforms. Who needs to register? To reiterate for you, it's not everyone. So it's not all designers or all builders. For designers, it's only those that are going to be specifically responsible for submitting regulated designs, the ones that are going to put their name to the bit of paper. For builders, it'll be the head contractor or the principal who'll be declaring the built form, and engineers, only those that are providing services in those 5 categories. So going back to builders, to give you a bit of clarity there, it's the principal contractor that is required to register. There's 3 different classes of registration for builders. There's builders as an individual, there's builders as a body corporate, so a business type license, and builders as the body corporate nominee, who is the person who's going to be taking responsibility for lodging on behalf of that business. For designers, it's much more complex. There's a whole range of different design categories. And here we're trying to make sure that we match up skills, qualification, and experience to the work that people do. So government has decided here is the set of design practitioners that are needed to produce quality designs around the key building elements: water, fire systems, structure, key services like lifts, all of those things, all of those specialist designs are now to be produced by appropriately qualified people. And today I'm not going to go into the detail of the different skills and experience that each one of those requires, but you'll have to look up that for yourself either in the regulations or on the Fair Trading website, which are provided links to through this presentation. So it's a relatively simple process. Regulated designs are prepared. Those designs are reviewed to make sure that they're complete. To make sure that they're complete considering themselves, not just individually. So an individual electrical design confirming that it's compliant, but also considering all of the other designs for all of the other key building elements, because buildings are an entire system. Everything must work together. And if we've seen any particular issues in design through the audits, it's been where there's friction point between designs, that's when issues arise. So a millimetre choice in the location of the wall can make a significant difference to the location of your penetrations. It can make a significant difference to where you plan to put in piping and services. And so the DPB requires that all designs must be compliant, not just on their own, but considering all the other relevant designs that are going to be lodged, all of the other designs that are going to be lodged for that piece of construction. This ensures that the building practitioner can get set before they go. They've got sort of complete design documentation. It's going to help the construction process because it should prevent the likelihood of significant variations occurring because we've created a more thoughtful, planned process. But if there are issues, it also helps us identify what went wrong. We can look at the design declaration, the builder's declaration, and have absolute clarity on was it a poor design or poor built form. So you may have heard me mention that documents have got to be lodged on the New South Wales Planning Portal. Now, it's important to recognise that not everyone will need a login, just like not everyone needs to be registered. So the only people that need to use the planning portal are certifiers, as they do today, building practitioners, because they'll have to lodge declarations that they've built the building in accordance with the design. Building practitioners are also the one responsible for lodging designs on behalf of design practitioners. Although the legislation does allow for the builders to nominate design practitioners to do it on their behalf if they so choose. The other person that can lodge declarations design is the principal design practitioner, a voluntary role that's meant to allow for someone to be acted as a coordination authority. And of course, developers and applicants to continue to use e-planning as they would today. Now, variations is a really critical piece because too often we see variations or performance solutions used to get around non-compliant work. So under the DPB, that changes. If a variation is related to a key building element or a performance solution, a very strict and rigorous approach applies. The variation to the regulated design must be lodged on the e-planning portal within a day. Work can't commence outside of a day of that declaration being lodged, because we want to make sure that there's always a regulated design in play before work goes on. For those variations that aren't related to key building elements or performance solutions, they simply have to be recorded and they're lodged as part of the application for the OC. So I thought it'd be helpful to talk through how it works for a mixed use stage development, because that's the more complicated scenario here. So in this example, we have a residential tower in the middle, a retail block on the left, an office block on the right, and a basement that's common to all those facilities. So under the Design and Building Practitioners Act, the set of regulated designs that needs to be lodged is just the set that is required to do the work under each construction certificate. So in this example, we have 4 construction certificates, one for the basement, one for the residential tower, one for the office block, and one for the retail block. So the first set of regulated designs that needs to be lodged is just for the work related to the basement. The next set of documents that needs to be lodged is for CC2, the residential tower. The designs related to the basement don't need to be relodged. They can sit there in the system. But if there's been a change in the design philosophy for that tower, so for example, the loads expected in the tower or the makeup of those loads is different to what was originally envisaged when CC1 and that work was undertaken, then a variation process would apply. And then subsequent, we have CC3, the office tower. Again, no need for further resubmitting the designs related to the basement. They stay as long as there's no variations required by that further work. Now, there's also going to be design guidelines, and they're going to be released very shortly, later this week, in fact. And they'll detail what designs have to look like. They'll detail that there has to be a standard title block on every regulated design. A standard title block so that we as the regulator can use digital technology to be able to review and confirm the many hundreds of designs that are going to be lodged. So we'll automatically be able to use computer systems to scan each design, identify what building element relates to, what version it relates to, who was the designer of record, who was the project. All of that information can be recorded digitally. So we'll have a bit of real estate in designs going forward, which is just for us. We'll also have requirements around the type of detail that designs have got to include and scale as well. And lastly, as a close, I'd like people to think about your contracts if you haven't already. So contracts are going to need to change to face the new world. You're going to have to think about what you warrant, how you're going to manage variations, how you're going to manage how you appoint people, how you're going to manage your entire procurement process for a job. So to make sure that people just didn't put out their own views on what needs to change, and the industry have to face 100 different legal experts giving people advice that's all in a different direction. We got everyone together in the same room in our Pillar 4 group and said, right, let's come up with a document which picks out the high level changes that people are going to have to consider in their contracts. And we produced them in a guidance document called Model Clauses. So if you haven't seen this information already, I encourage you to have a look. It's in the Strengthening Contracts and Standards section of our website. There's 2 examples there, one for a design consultancy agreement, another for a build-only contract. It doesn't apply just for a build-only contract, but we chose a build-only contract because it makes the concepts a little bit simpler to understand. So how to prepare? There is tons of information now on the Fair Trading website and the changes to Class 2 buildings link. If you haven't looked at that already, please do. There's also videos, one each for builders, designers, engineers. And if that's not enough, we've also got online learning modules. Those learning modules are mandatory under the new registration scheme. So it's mandatory to have completed both those modules if you plan to be registered as a designer or a builder. But even if you don't plan to be registered, they're just as helpful as well, particularly the course on the design and building practitioner legislation itself. I'd also highlight that registration won't open till 1st of July. So prior to July, we'll release information on what the registration process looks like, what's the supporting information that you'll have to lodge, and what does that platform look and feel like. But the platform itself won't open until 1st of July. And Chris, I propose to end it there, and happy to have a panel discussion and any questions.
Hi, Matthew, that's great. There's a lot of really important information in there for our members who are doing Class 2 buildings in New South Wales. So thank you for that. We've got a lot of questions and probably more than we've got time to go through. So are you able to stay online and keep answering some of those while we go on to the next presentation?
Sure.
I'll read out a couple that we've got here. So in relation to design documentation, can you reference some of the common issues that you see being regularly made?
Yeah, it's I'd say it's a lack of detail in designs, and at some points that's because the design has been put under pressure from their client, the builder or developer, to just produce a minimum standard. But other times it's just been poor quality design work, so an issue for construction set that really doesn't have sufficient detail to work from. So in a bathroom setting, doesn't show the water stops, for example, doesn't show falls, doesn't have specifications, doesn't highlight the type of products that a designer expected the builder to use. And then beyond that, it's when the designs don't work as a set, so the bathroom design doesn't fit within the structural design because those two designers haven't actually talked to each other.
Okay, what happens if a builder changes our designs? Are we to be notified, and who approves the changes?
Yeah, so that would be under the variation process. So if there's a variation to a key building element or there's a performance solution involved, it has to be declared and work has to stop while that process is undertaken.
So it'll be up to the builder to notify designers? Up
to the builder, but also I expect the certifier to be keeping an eye on that as well, and making sure that that's the process that the builder does follow. Certifiers becoming more and more proactive on site. They've been a focus of regulatory intention, particularly through audits. So yes, it's the builder's responsibility, but expect the certifier to be keeping an eye on that as well. And if things fall through the gaps, it'll be a significant problem from a compliance perspective if the building commissioner's team got on there and found out there was a gap.
Okay, what about buildings that are currently at DA stage with council and not yet approved? Do these projects become part of the new regulations on the 1st of July?
Yeah, so there's a set of sort of transitional requirements that determine whether a building is in or out. The two things to consider really are whether it's got the date in which it got its construction certificate or compliant development certificate, and if building work has started. So if projects have already got a CC and building work has commenced before the 1st of July, those projects only need to have a builder's declaration at the end. The builder has to sign off that they're built in accordance with the designs that they've been provided, which is the standard requirements.
Okay.
For projects that have a CC, sorry, there's 4.
Yeah.
For projects that have a CC but haven't started building work yet from the 1st of July, all of the requirements of the scheme are in force. So they'll have to have a set of regulated designs. For projects where building work is started, but there's multiple CCs, so a staged development, the CCs that are yet to come will have to follow the new process. So you could have a building that it completes doing the basement, from June, July through to August, let's say. The next stage is the ground floor. For the ground floor, there'll have to be a set of regulated designs in play before construction can start.
Okay. Thank you. So are the educational courses BDAA deliver able to be evaluated by the Building Commissioner's Office for CPD?
Certainly. Where the portal that we've created is not just for our own modules. We're hoping for it to be a marketplace and a place where associations like the BDAA can put their content as well, so that we can signify good quality training that's available not just to individual members, but other practitioners as well. Okay.
There's some really good questions that have been posted here, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to get responses to them all. So thank you. I'm going to have to move on probably to the next presentation. But if you can stay online, if we get time at the end, I'll come back and keep going through some of those questions because it's really important information. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
So our next presentation is Georgia Bargi from she's the National Commercial and Specification Manager at Polytech, and they specialise in mechanical industrial engineering solutions. So we're welcoming George to present to the BDA for the first time, and he's going to discuss how to specify Polytech's extensive product range and its appeal to designers. So welcome, George. Have we got you online? Hello, George. What we might do, Matthew, is keep going through some questions then while we're waiting. Oh, George, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome. Sorry, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Technical issue, but we're back on board again, so thank you very much.
All good.
Thanks.
Are you ready to go?
Inviting us. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Are you?
Lovely. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining, and thank you to the BDAA for inviting me to come and have a bit of a chat about Polytech and who we are and what we do. As Jennifer said, my name is Georgia Bargi. I'm the National Specification Manager for the business Polytech, and we have a fantastic opportunity today to talk to you about who we are, what we do. You might already know a little bit about us, but what I'd like to do is to share a PowerPoint presentation that we've prepared for you. So we'll just share screen. And this one here, just give me one moment to get all the stuff organized. Terrific. Can you duplicate that? So, what I'll be doing today is talking a little bit about the background of Polytech. Take you through the website and have a look at making the right selection, and a little bit about the helpful resources that are available on the Polytech website. So I've got here a small video. It only goes for 3 minutes, but I think this is an integral part of our business that talks a little bit about the business and what we do. Polytech started in the late 80s by John and Michael Borg. Very humble beginnings in their mum and dad's garage. Today, we employ over 2,000 people. We own forests, sustainably managed plantation forests, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. I've got some slides for that in the PowerPoint presentation. We also have MDF plants and particle board plants. And one of the biggest things is environmental friendly production, not just for our environment, but also from an OH&S perspective for our staff. So I'll just play this video and then we'll go through some of the features and benefits of the business.
The kitchen is where the family get together every morning, every evening, and to come home to a nice kitchen and to entertain with your friends and family is a beautiful part of the Australian way. Hey, I'm Michael Borg.
And I'm John Borg, and we're the directors of Polytech. We manufacture particle board, MDF, and kitchen-based and furniture-based products in a decorative range that are used around the country in the kitchen and furniture industry.
So John and I started in 1988 in a small factory on the central coast of New South Wales and developed the business into what Polytech is today. We employ over 2,000 people. We manufacture 4,500 to 5,500 tools a day.
Hi, George. I'm just going to interrupt because we've lost sound on that video. George, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, George. I can hear you now. We've lost sound on that video. So do you want to just replay that? We lost it fairly early on.
Okay, no problem. I'll just replay it from about here.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries.
Of the Australian way of life. Hey, I'm Michael Borg.
And I'm John Borg, and we're the directors of Polytech. We manufacture particle board, MDF, and kitchen-based and furniture-based products in a decorative range that are used around the country in the kitchen and furniture industry.
So John and I started in 1988 in a small factory on the central coast of New South Wales and developed the business into what Polytech is today. We employ over 2,000 people. We manufacture 4,500 to 5,500 doors a day. We press over 15,000 sheets of board a day. Marrying up the look and feel with the product is very important to us. So having our own design team and having Mary Lou being a part of it, getting feedback from designers and architects, we can come up with the right colours and prints to service the industry.
Because we manufacture in multiple sites in Australia, it makes it easier to distribute product around the country. It's very difficult to import products and maintain stock holdings. So by manufacturing in Australia, it allows us to make on demand. If there's projects that are requiring large volumes in certain sheet sizes, we can achieve that quite easily by being locally made. We've got short lead times, we've got very computerized equipment, which allows us to turn products around quite fast. Manufacturing in Australia, it's keeping a lot of regional areas in a strong economy, from forestry through to manufacturing, through to maintenance. So there's a lot of jobs created regionally in our industry by buying Australian manufactured products. By being Australian made, it actually allows us to become more environmentally friendly compared to other imported products. So we are generating a lot more of our own electricity on our manufacturing sites. We're recycling a lot of our timber back into the products. We're buying the most environmentally friendly vehicles we can find on the market. So we're doing everything we can to keep our footprint as small as possible and recycle as much as possible, which if you're not making locally, it's very hard to recycle the products locally.
Being Australian made is giving the consumer the comfort that our products are well made, that the come from nothing to where we are today, and to have that Australian-made symbol on our brochures or on our trucks is very important.
The product is used widely around the country, and I think it's very good for our staff to see that they're part of a good company that makes quality products. And when they see it in a shopping centre or they see it at their friends' houses, I think it comes with a bit of pride about being Australian-made.
That's terrific. I think that video really sums it up very well. There are 6 key features and benefits that I like sharing with people that I talk to in relation to Polytech and who we are. The first thing is the Australian made and owned from humble beginnings and manufacturing on the Central Coast. So there are some images here of where John and Michael Borg started, and you can see here the first shed they owned after Mum and Dad said, look, we want our garage back to put the Ford LTD, give us back the garage, and this is where they've started. John's Tirana, you can see here, over here on the right-hand side, you can see how they started manufacturing and they started building and constructing their warehousing to what it is today. And we'll see some pictures of that a bit later on. Some of our first trucks for delivering some of the logistics that we had in the early days. The name Polytech had H, and it was Polytech doors because we started manufacturing thermo-laminated doors. We make anything between 4,500 to 5,500 thermo-laminated doors per day, and we have a nice long 10-year warranty with it. And then from there, we went into making laminate and laminating the board to where we are today. So the next feature that I'm very proud of, and as a business, I feel that we kind of give back to the community, is the state-of-the-art company-owned manufacturing facilities, distribution centres and logistics in Australia. A lot of these manufacturing items that you see here and some of the videos you saw with the robotics and also the robotic storage arm, these are all engineered by our Australian engineers that work for the company, that work for Borg, and they're a dream and brainchild of John and Michael Borg, that this is what they want to do, this is how they would like to see it, and creating efficiencies in the manufacturing process. While creating efficiencies, what's also high on their agenda is the OH&S process, where you want to keep employees of the business safe, and that's very important for us. This is a really good image of some of the facilities that we've got as well. This is just here lately in Mount Gambier. So we've got, in Mount Gambier, we're mainly doing particle board. Oberon, we're manufacturing MDF and particle board. And in Oberon is in northwest New South Wales, and right in the heart of the sustainably managed plantation forest. And then down here you'll see some more where we've got a building in Summersby, and this is really our major press plant with benchtop manufacturing, and Charm Haven, where we make mostly all the doors, whether it's thermo-laminated or melamine doors. Go to the next slide. Polytech is a vertically integrated business, and it's for cost efficiencies and also for sustainability practices. And by that, what we mean is that we now have forests that we own, and from the forest we're still yet to see some produce come through, because it takes roughly between 15 to 28 years for a tree to mature. Now, what part of the tree do we use? We use only the top third of the tree, and we use all the bendy trees because they're the ones that we need. We debark them and we chip them up, and we create fiber for our MDF. The straight part of the tree and the thick part of the tree, that normally goes to the construction, and it's pine radiata that we use. So all the way from the forest, the manufacturing, creating the environmental friendly resin, E0 resin, to pressing the product onto the board. We manufacture the laminate. We can make the doors to add value. We can make the bench tops. So for example, a lot of joiners that may be using or doing the carcasses of the cabinets, you'll find that they request to buy the Polytech manufactured doors. Not only because they're high quality and got very good quality control, but also because of efficiencies in terms of timing and so forth. I mean, if a joiner orders a door, it normally gets there from one door to 100 doors, anywhere between 10 to 15 working days plus a delivery time. So it's quite good, quite efficient. Then we use our own logistics, and you can see the image down the bottom on the right hand side. We have a massive fleet of trucks that's equivalent to some of the best delivery services in Australia. And I smile and I laugh at that because whenever I'm on the road, on the highway, you always see our trucks driving, going to Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, and from our distribution centres. Responsible manufacturing, both from OH&S as well as environmental, that really kind of sits very close to my heart, because the way we do environmental friendly manufacturing, it's not just because it's trendy or what's going on, but it is intrinsic to the way we do business. And there's a lot of stories that I can share with you. I mean, what we're doing at the moment is a lot of our warehouses, we're fitting them out with solar panels like you see here on the left-hand side. And we're aiming to be self-sufficient in terms of energy and providing energy for our facilities. But we also can attract all the water, the rainwater from our gutters, and we recycle it. We recycle our timbers. That's a big part of our business. It's probably the most manual part of the business because we have a lot of engineering and robotics in our manufacturing, but our recycling part, we're getting there, and eventually we're hoping to have that efficient as well. So for example, very simple example is, we currently have a business called Redirect, and what we do with that business is we claim all the end-of-life pallets. We take all the metal out of them, all the nails, all the contaminants, and we chip them up and we recycle them and put them back into the board, which is the particle board. Of course, you can't put it in MDF because MDF requires virgin fibre, which comes from sustainably managed forests. On the right-hand side here, you can also see this is how they conduct the logging. We try and keep it as best as possible, and we try and replant the logs as we go, the trees as we go along as well. Please feel free to go on the website and have a look at a lot of our stories in terms of recycling, what we do, and we also encourage tours through our manufacturing facilities, especially in Summersby if you're in New South Wales, or Mount Gambier in Adelaide, or any of the sites. You're more than welcome to let us know, and we're more than happy to do tours for you. Number 5, which is the environmentally improved low toxicity compact and laminate manufacturing in Malaysia. This is a Polytech manufacturing facility that we own in Malaysia, which we service basically Asia, Southeast Asia, and Australia as well. We manufacture laminate and compact laminate there. As you know, compact laminate is basically a product that's water resilient. It's made up of a whole heap of craft paper with a decorative paper on the top and on the bottom, with an overlay. And you would probably know already that laminate is a high pressure product used for high traffic environments. And on the right hand side, you can see all the craft paper coming together, where they use a phenolic resin to put it all together and under a high pressure going from there. So even that facility, we're deemed low toxicity. We've got the certification and we've got that on our website as well. So we're trying to take the environmental friendly goods story across all our manufacturing facility. Mindful of time, I'm just going to go through this very quickly because I want to get to a point where I'd like to share with you something that we've introduced into the market through our website that will help the interior designers and architects and specifiers of the world. But the sixth part of our key features and benefits, which I absolutely love and very proud of, is our innovation on trend decorative surfaces and finishes. So that's a little bit of a tongue twister, and you might say, what's all that about, George? So many years ago, when the business started, we used to sit around the boardroom table arguing, as all good businesses do, about what's going to work best in the marketplace in terms of color and finish. And we're not very professional from that perspective. So we find that we're just producing colors that we like. So a few years ago, we started the journey with an interior designer, Mary Lou. Mary Lou comes with an amazing background. She's an interior designer herself, but she's also a product developer for suppliers. Mary Lou consults the Polytech and helps us develop all our products and finishes. So basically, in short, she makes Polytech look good. So all the colors that you guys like, and like the Ravine finish, for example, which is a textured product, and the wood matte finish, which is new on the market now that we're taking across Australia. Wood matte is a textured product, which is like let's say a sandblasted veneer. It's a beautiful finish. I encourage you to jump on the website or talk to Polytech representatives and get some samples. There's some new unbelievable anti-fingerprint products that we're coming up with, really smooth surface products that stand out from the rest, like a honed marble finish. I do recommend that you have a look at that. And so we come to this slide here, which I would like to take you through. There's a link to the Polytech website, and I'm hoping that this link would work. So this link is designed for specifiers that allows you to jump on the website, select all the different products and download the schedule, and it gets downloaded in a spreadsheet format. It's loading a bit, it's taking a little bit of time. When we were testing it earlier, it worked really well, but now that we're live, there has to be something with it, right? Oh, beautiful, here we go. So this page is basically on our Polytech website. If you go to the main page at Polytech and select specifiers, which is this one here, it'll certainly take you to this page. So this allows you to select, say, let's for example have a look at the bench tops. You select the color of the bench top. Let's say wood matte, Angora. It asks you which finish would you like. It's only available in wood matte. So if we just go back again to here.
Sorry, George, sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
Your screen is not changing.
My screen is not changing?
No, can you share your other screen?
I think I've only got the one screen up, but let's have a bit of a look at that.
We've just got the screen that says making the right selection.
Oh, have you?
Yes.
Okay, let me just see what we can do. Let's just escape out of that one there for a sec. Yeah. Just press the Windows button.
We're going to run out of time, George. So it's great. Designers can go and have a look on the website.
Yeah.
Resources there. Is there anything that you want to go through before we hit 2 o'clock?
No, that's basically it. I was just going to take you through some of the Polytech website and some of the things that are available with Polytech. Basically, this specifiers page will give you an opportunity to go through, select the colors that you like for bench tops. If you're designing kitchens, select the colors you like for the doors and joinery. Select if there's any wall finishes that you like. and it downloads in a spreadsheet format with the color tiles, with all the information on there, the size of the board, all the data that you need, and it just goes from there. The other thing I wanted to quickly talk to you about is the way we select products. Sometimes our products, by the time we bring it to market, it takes anywhere between 3 to 5 years. So it starts off as a design on a computer screen, then it goes to a print, then we have to treat the paper with a resin. So you would have heard the term melamine. The term melamine basically refers to the surface of the product, not the actual substrate. The substrate could be particle board or MDF. And then that gets pressed onto the board. And sometimes you have to go back because the color might change a bit or the texture might change a bit. But yeah, it takes anywhere between 3 to 5 kind of years for us to bring the product to market. And generally speaking, we also select products according to the trends that are out in the market. And that's mainly really Mary Lou's domain. And it'd be really lovely if there's an opportunity to also chat to Mary Lou at some point to talk about trends and what have you. But that's about it from me. And thank you very much for inviting me to come along and talk a little bit about Polytech. I really appreciate that. Did you have any questions you wanted to ask me or go through?
I think of what I might do, I'm going to have to wrap up the formal part of the meeting for people that have to go. Well, if you're able to stay online, if people have got questions, they can post them in the Q&A box if you're able to stay and just answer any questions.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you very much for presenting that. That's great.
Thank you.
That you recycle pallets from building sites and don't charge builders. That's fantastic. So that's going to wrap up the formal part of our meeting. If you've there's a QR code on the screen for CPD point. If you're not a member, you'll receive a certificate. So a big thank you to George and Matthew for joining us and for those that have contributed questions. The next online meeting will be Tuesday, the 6th of July at 1 p.m. So keep an eye out for the registration email and we will see you in July. Okay, bye for now.